time it was withdrawn. And I have marked here that we completed 277, and today we start on 278. If anybody has anything different?
Correct.
No, very good. So we are on the second book, chapter 6, that deals now with the spirit's life. This is a part of the book that deals with how is our life in errant state when you leave this physical body behind and you return home. What are we to expect? How is it going to be, or how it is for those who are there right now? We are now dealing with the part that deals with relationships beyond the grave. It's awkward title, I agree. And this, how do we interact with one another in the spiritual world? Philip, you do the reading for us?
I certainly.
Thank you.
278. Do spirits of different orders mingle? Yes and no, meaning they see each other, but they are still separated. They avoid or approach one another depending on the empathy or aversion of their thoughts and ideas, just like you. Your world is merely the obscured reflection of the spirit world. Those holding the same rank are attracted to each other and form groups or families of spirits united by sympathy and a common goal. Good spirits are united by the desire to do good, while bad spirits are united by the desire to do wrong. The shame of their wrongdoing, and the desire to be among those they resemble. The spiritual world is like a big city where people of every social standing and means see and meet one another without actually mingling. Various social circles are formed based on the similarity of taste. Vice and virtue rub elbows without interacting with one another.
Thanks. So the version that I have that I'm sharing, it doesn't show a different italics for what's from Kardec and what's from the spirits. I'm sorry about that. But this paragraph, the spiritual world is like a big city. This is a comment from Kardec. Okay, I will make sure that when it's from Kardec, I'll mention it, because I think it's important to see what is an answer from the spirit and what is a comment from Kardec. So do different spirits or different orders do they meet, or do they interact? And yes or no, I think is a very appropriate answer. And when I go to Kardec comments and he says that the spiritual world is like a big city, but I also understand that there are many different cities in the spiritual world, just like here, we have many different cities. And in many different cities, there will be, those cities will be separated by the level of moral progress primarily. But inside of one of the cities, there will be some differentiate of the spirits. If you see the book Nosso Lar, where André Luiz resided for some time, and we see that there is differentiation of the level of moral progress of many spirits. We see the example of the woman who is kind of lazy and doesn't want to really do her work and just wants privileges with the so-called bonus hours without doing the work to merit those bonus hours. And at the same time, we have someone like Silas, who seems to be like a workhorse and is always willing to help and assist, but himself cannot work continuously. He needs to go home to his family and sleep and have some kind of nutrition that they have over there, whatever that means. we don't quite know. And we also have all the spirits that no longer need to rest, no longer need to get any kind of nutrition. So even in Nosula, there will be different levels of spirits, and they will mingle. But the differentiate is quite small. It's not as such a sharp differentiator. Someone, let's say, in the book that we are reading now, Liberation, and inhabitants of Nosula, they will not be able to reside, to share the same space. The level of vibration, the differences between those are way too big. But even if you go, let's say, into spirits inhabiting the regions of the lower zones, like in the book Liberation, there will be some variation of the level of the spirits over there. And they will mingle in accordance with the desire to mingle with one another. Remember that in the Minos book that just passed a couple of weeks ago, Erasmus explained to us that spirits will communicate via thought. And the way that it works is when one spirit directs his or her thought through another specific spirit. It's not that it goes in the air and everybody gets it. Otherwise, it would be a very chaotic situation, right? So it's when, let's assume that we are now in the spiritual world. I want to speak only to Philip. I will direct my thought to Philip, and the other people around it not share, because their minds would be not going to be aligned in thought, so to say. Otherwise, it becomes extremely chaotic if the thoughts was just spread all over the place, right? So among the spirits, with the same kind of desires, with the same kind of affinity, with the same kind of intentions and thoughts, there will be somewhat in that level of connection of wave of thoughts. I don't know what the word would be here, that will allow them to interact in a much easier way. Then with spirits who are completely in a different kind of vibration. It's just a silly example. Let's say on Sunday afternoon, those people who are into football in the football season, they will have a much greater ability to interact, to meet among themselves, because they all connect at the same thing. They all focused at the same thing. They want to watch games, they want to see games. And those, let's say, who are doing something else, let's say they're going to the museum, they will have a much greater interact among themselves because they are vibrated at the same level. So the same thing in the spiritual world. Although there is a differentiation of spirits, not a great difference, let's say, from Nosula and the lower zones where the book Liberation takes place, but in that city, so to say, there will be differentiation of the level of spirits, and they will mingle, they will interact in accordance to their desire, in accordance to their affinity, in accordance of them having the same kind of desires and objectives. Okay? Questions, comments? We move on.
279. Are all spirits mutually accessible to one another? The good can go everywhere, and it must be this way in order to bring their influence to bear upon the bad ones. However, the regions inhabited by the good are blocked off to lower order spirits, so as to not disrupt those places by introducing vile passions.
Okay, so this answer pretty much corroborates what I just said, that in city, so to say, in the spiritual world, there will be different level of spirits, but not such a great differentiation as there would be, let's say again, inhabitants of the lower zone of the book Liberation and spirits inhabiting Nosla, right? Because now the differentiation is way too big. Can the inhabitants of Nosla, of the spirits, go down to the lower zones and in missions, in works, those who are well prepared, able, they can go. Even André Luiz to go would have to go with the company of more experienced experience in those kind of missions. But a more evolved spirit, let's say, of Gubbio, who is the instructor of André Luiz in the book Liberation and above, they can they can transit pretty much anywhere they want, from the level where they are, lower. Right? Of course, if you go to the level of the Christs, since they have to reach perfection, they can go anywhere they want, anytime they want. And the ones who are, let's say, one level below Christ's, they cannot go into the world of the Christ yet without permission, without being taken there. It does happen, but they can go all the way below, right? The contrary does not happen. Spirits of lower zones cannot transit into higher spheres without permission and start being taken there. So if one day I'm hanging out in the lower zones where I belong and they want to give me a break and let go and visit Nosla, if they give me the permission, if they take me there, I'll be able to go over there. But by myself, I cannot go. I cannot enter there. Okay, and that is to maintain order. Is to maintain the necessary level of vibrations for Nosla to be Nosla. Because if you get an influx of lower vibrations, it stops being Nosla and it becomes something else, right? If you have a decent neighborhood, and not talking about here of financial, okay? We're talking about people who take good care of the neighborhood. You know, they clean up in front of the streets. They clean up after their dog. They make sure that they keep the garden well kept and the squares and the parks, everything is neat. They do not leave garbage behind. It's a nice place. If there is an influx of a lot of people coming in that does not behave like that, who goes to the park and leave all the garbage behind, you'll transform that neighborhood. We'll change that neighborhood. So if in order to maintain, to keep Nosla being Nosla, they have to limit the influx of lower energies. It makes completely sense. If we cannot do this here while incarnate, definitely it can be done in the spiritual world, and it is done in the spiritual world. Again, if we use an example of Nosla, and again, Nosla is not a big deal, right? Nosla is not a sphere of the high evolved spirit. Nosla is a quarter step above Earth, basically. Okay, I'm just using examples because we have the books that we can make parallel with. Okay, the woman that was at the gate trying to get in was not allowed. The one who have all those marks and in her body, and Eloise could not understand. Well, wait, don't let her in because she can't, because she's gonna mess everything up. She's not ready for it yet. If there is a huge influx of spirits like that, it lowers the level of vibration of Nosla, and Nosla stops being Nosla. It becomes like Earth, basically. You lose that half step above. Does it make sense? All right, 280.
What are the relations between good and bad spirits? The good strive to combat the immoral propensities of others, to help them rise to a higher degree. This is a mission.
It could not be otherwise, right? Otherwise, the good would not be good. Because good here is being basically defined by the ability to practice charity as in a normal state, so to say. Like for us, practice charity is going outside of our normal, right? But to the good, the exercise of charity as a constant. So what makes them good is exactly the ability of assist others to combat the immoral propensities of others. So a good spirit is the one who is helping us here right now. The good spirits are the workers as genuine in our homes right now, helping us to perhaps understand what we are studying right now. Next.
281. Why do lower spirits take pleasure in tempting us to do wrong? Out of jealousy. They have not earned a place among the good and relish preventing other inexperienced spirits from reaching supreme happiness. They want to make others feel the same way they do. Do you not see this same desire among yourselves?
In other words, very simple, right? Misery loves company. That is the only explanation that I can find of why I, who was suffering secondary to my ignorance, want to see others suffering as much as I am suffering. I think that is the main characteristic that makes an ignorant spirit an ignorant spirit. Is a desire to cause harm to others so others can come to lower to their levels. The opposite of the good spirits, whose characteristic is to assist others to elevate themselves. And of course, then all the vices can be applied here, right? Jealousy, pride, selfishness, which characterize an inferior spirit, and it's that those vices that leads them to perturb or try to perturb those who are trying to ascend. And important to say that trying to ascend because we can be influenced by many spirits, but you make the choices who you're gonna follow, who will be our leaders, right? They will try, but if we vibrate above, they're not gonna be able to influence us. Next.
282. How do spirits communicate with one another? They see and understand one another. Speech is a material creation that reflects the spirit. The universal fluid establishes constant communication, a vehicle by which thought is transmitted, similar to air being the vehicle of sound in your world. This fluid is similar to the universal telegraph, uniting all worlds and enabling spirits to correspond from one world to another.
Okay, so we're gonna see the same analogy in the Medium's book, the second part. We know that communication in the spiritual world is done via thought, is an exchange of thought. Here we have to dress those thoughts with words. make forming sentences so you can kind of organize our thoughts in a way that it becomes perceivable to a receiver. In the spiritual world, that's not necessary. We will send our thoughts, and this again, it's extremely abstract for us to the idea of thoughts without words. Um, they say speech is a material creation that reflects the spirit, right? So there is no need of speech in the spiritual world. We will be able to completely deprive ourselves from the need to use speech to communicate. Probably not. Probably, even though we communicate via thought, we will mimic communication here in the spiritual world, because in the physical world, because we are so conditioned to it. We will perhaps move um, the mouth apparatus, since our perisphere will reflect, will be resemble pretty much this physical body. So we'll pretend that we're speaking, and but in reality, we are sending our thoughts again directed at one or one other person, or perhaps more than one individual, right? If if a teacher, if a mentor is providing a lecture to a group of spirits, it will vibrate, will radiate its thoughts to 20, 30, 40, 100 people, whoever is there to receive that message. So the vibration of my thought may be directed at one or a group of spirits, okay? But no speech is needed, even if we are conditioned to use words. There is not a need of it. Questions, comments? We proceed.
283. Can spirits hide their thoughts from one another? Can they hide themselves from one another? No. Everything is out in the open, particularly for those who have reached perfection. They may withdraw from one another, but they are always visible. Note that this is not an absolute rule. Higher spirits can render themselves invisible to lower spirits when they deem it useful to do so.
Okay, so can spirits hide themselves? We are completely transparent for spirits like ourselves and above us. We cannot hide ourselves. We cannot hide from more elevated spirits. More elevated spirits are transparent and completely visible for more elevated spirits at their own level over there. But, and this is very important, note that this is not an absolute rule, because the higher order spirits, they have the ability to kind of be invisible to lower order spirits. They will do that when they judge it to be necessary to do so. You can imagine many situations where it may be necessary. We can imagine situations that will more elevated spirits see they're in a position of an observer, and someone doing this work of observation needs to be somewhat known to the environment, and if they can be completely invisible, that's the best way to be an observant. Okay, the idea that spirits will higher order spirits always act and interfere on what's going is happening. It's not true. And many times spirit will be there just observing, and we see that in many books of André Luiz, in which they are right there observing what's going on, and the discarnate and the incarnate spirits over there have no idea the André Luiz and his mentors are there. We see that in The Messenger, with that in domain of mediumship. And basically, all the books on that is when the mentor and always judge that it's not a good idea for them to present themselves, they will be there, but their presence will not be noted. Okay. Go ahead.
Don't see it yet.
Yeah, I see. Go ahead. Question.
Hear me? Yeah.
Yeah, you. Yeah, I'm sorry, you.
You're talking to me?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm talking to you. Sorry. Yes, go ahead.
So it says here that they may withdraw from one another. So I'm trying to understand what that means. Like it looks like the sense of individuality and privacy is different than ours, in a way that they are always visible, and it seems that they can see through each other or each other's thoughts and intentions. That's what I am understanding here. I understand when the level is different, but at the same level, I'm trying to understand what withdraw from each other means.
There is always respect, especially when you get to a higher level, even to our level above, respect to privacy, right? And there is always be a situation in which you choose not to share yourself with others, your informations, your thoughts. That's what's meant over here. They may withdraw for one another, but they are always visible. They are always visible, but we will respect their privacy. We respect their right of not participating or anything that of knowing showing themselves. If I choose to withdraw from the group where I am right now, they will respect that. It's a choice that I'm making. But higher in the spirit, they may intervene with that. They may and see exactly what is going through my mind if they choose that it's necessary in order to help me, in order to observe the complete scenario over there. They can do that. But they will most likely respect my time, my privacy, and if I choose to withdraw for one another. And again, you need to see here that we are visible to one another, but we don't care to be seeing one another all the time. No, if I am focused on something, I'm not going to pay attention, see everybody else who is around me, because I'm focused on something else. Just like here. And if I choose to withdraw and kind of disconnect and not be a focus of others, others will just not care and just let me go and do my thing. Do you understand? Does it make sense? I mean, let's say Nosla. It's a village. They have houses. They have families living together, right? And Silas goes to work. He's a nurse. He does his things, and then he's go back to his home. He has a mother over there. He withdraws after his day of work. After he's doing everything he does, he withdraws himself into his household, into his home, and have his own life over there, and that is respected. If his boss or boss of Nosla chooses to see what he's doing, he can, because he is a more elevated spirit. But why would him? Why or she? I don't know. Why you there? They respect Silas. That now it's his time to withdraw and do his family thing, so to say.
Hey, Elmo.
Yeah. Mhm.
Oh, you have a question?
Go ahead.
Yeah, it was a follow-up, like because here it asks if spirits can hide their thoughts from one another, right? And it says no, everything is out in the open. So
Right.
if they are together, their thoughts are available to other spirits of the same level.
But you see, previously, we already said that we need to be focused with one another, right? We need to establish that back and forth of thoughts,
Mhm.
because then we just don't care anymore. Again, what João you always use, we walk on, I don't know, Fifth Avenue at Christmas time, and there's 1,000 people over there. People are talking, you don't hear what they're saying. No, you don't even gets to know what the color of the blouses or whatever's happening because I focus on something else. If I choose to walk behind someone and hear what they're saying, I may be able to do so. Let's say, go at Macy's and go into the escalators and I want to hear what those people are talking about. I may be able to do it, right? But why would I do that? I have my own interests, I have my own things to do. Same thing in the spiritual world. Now, a higher spirit may have an interest as an observant of a situation or as assistants of one individual of the group to see those thoughts, to understand what the thoughts going in one or another individual. And they have that ability and they have that permission, so to say, because their intentions are always for the good. They're always willing to help. But among us, unlikely we will be that you have that interest. But again, we are transparent in the spiritual, especially for high older spirits. There is no way that we can hide our true selves to them, as we can do over here. We all pretend to be something different than what we really are. In the spiritual world, we're always going to present our true selves among those like us, and definitely the one higher than us. Renato?
Yeah, it's just I think you explained to me a while ago. Just trying to refresh. Places like Nosso Lar and Transitory Housing, they have those walls and everything to protect them from attack from spirits from lower vibration, everything. But that is meant for the spirits that are with them at the same level that the spirits there want to attack, right? Not for the spirits that are vibrating a higher order, in a higher level. Because if we need permission, if we need to have in the same vibration in order to communicate or do whatever, so spirits that, for example, that are in command in Nosso Lar or Transitory House won't be affected for those lower spirits. Those protections are made to protect the spirits that are in the same vibration from the lower spirits, right?
Or slightly above, the ones who still are ignorant enough that they can be negatively influenced by those spirits. But all the spirits who are in those, especially the transitory houses, who have tremendous amounts of debit, which spirits who are knocking at the door trying to collect. Like you have an obsessors over there, and that spirit is now in a house being protected. Now that means of protection, those walls are for those spirits, those who may be subject to the harmful influences of those spirits who try to get in. Definitely not for high order spirits. They don't need the protection, you're right. And those protections would not stop a higher spirits anyway. They can go anywhere, anytime they want. So yeah, those protections, most spirits like us, who can still be influenced, and we are, by other spirits, just like ourselves, or perhaps a little lower than ourselves.
So, for example, in a colony where, for example, Andrea Louis' mom came from, will not need no walls, no nothing, because it's in a level above where lower spirits are not able even to reach that point, right?
I would imagine, yes, that you're right. Okay, I can say for sure because I don't recall reading anything in that regard. Okay, you know the Nosla has walls, right? It has those gates. I don't know if they have some kind of protection, at least at an energy level, something more abstract means of protection, those higher spiritual words, I really don't know. But I would imagine, like you said, that there is no need for such, because the lower spirits cannot reach that level in any way.
And the last thing, on the greater world, even though when Andrea Luis finds, Andrea Luis's men, they find his grandfather, even though they try to make themselves visible, the grandfather and the spirits with them are not able to see it, so they have to apply passes. They have to go at a quote unquote physical thing more, in order for the grandfather to recognize. So in a sense, it's not, in certain cases, not just enough the higher spirit to make him or herself visible. Needs to go further in order to be seen, right?
Yeah, because as I said here, we need to focus at one another. Those lower spirits, his grandfather, and even worse, his companion over there, they are focused in something completely different. They are focused that the mother they have in their hands, thinking it's gold, and just try to preserve that gold. They are almost in a state of mono idea in which nothing else means anything to them. So they would not be able to see those higher spirits without some serious intervention on their part of the whole of the elevated spirits. And even on that, doing their best, only André Luis' grandfather was able really to see. The Holy Spirit was not able to, because he was so focused in something completely different that he was unreachable. They could not reach him. And then again, that is one of the reasons that mediumship meetings are important. Spirits in such a state of rebelliousness or revolt or no desire for revenge that cannot interact with higher spirits could help them up there, over there. But when they come to the spirit, to the physical world, and they have that shock with materiality, they can interact with incarnated ones because they live in a much more dense state of mind, because the perispirit is so dense, because what is in their mind is so much more comparable with the density of this world that they can actually interact with them, but they could never elevate themselves high enough to be able to interact with benefactors who would be there try to help them. So the only alternative is to try to bring them to those mediumship meetings.
Thank you.
Okay, can we move on?
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have to go on. Let's go to the next one, right?
284. How can spirits establish their individuality and maintain their uniqueness from other beings around them when they no longer have a physical body? Their individuality is established by their perispirit, which makes each spirit distinct from one another, as the body does for human beings.
So, in other words, they do have a body. It's not a physical, it's an ethereal body. And that ethereal body gives them individuality. Just like here we have a physical body that gives us individuality. Next.
284.
No,
I'm sorry,
35.
5. Do spirits recognize one another when they have lived together on earth? Does a son recognize his father? Does a friend recognize a friend? Yes, and from generation to generation. How do those who have known each other on earth recognize one another in the spirit world? We see our past life and can read it like a book. In seeing the past of our friends and our enemies, we see their journey from life to death.
Thanks. It's very simple. Most of us, once we leave here and go back to spiritual world, we have a very clear memory of this present incarnation. And in this present incarnation, all of affection and disaffection that are in our mind, I retained in the spiritual world. So once I get up there, you'll be able to recognize my father, my mother, my grandmother, and unfortunately those that we don't have such a good relationship. If we are able to deal with that. Very often not beyond this very last incarnation. Very often, most of us will want past this incarnation. In another word, when I go back to the spiritual world, I will recognize myself as Elmo. I will recognize my relationships as Elmo, but unlikely beyond that, the incarnation before that and before that, unless it's really necessary for some kind of therapy or to resolve some very significant issues. Once we evolve a little more, they will be able to recognize relationships of previous reincarnations, because then we are more likely to understand better this concept of the universal family. Okay, comments, questions? Okay.
286. Does the soul see family and friends who have died before it immediately after vacating the body? Immediately is not the right word. As we have said, the soul needs time to restore its self-consciousness and shed the material veil.
Immediately after we shed this physical body, immediately after we completely disconnect the very last tie to this physical body, will most of us be in a state of sleepiness, so to say, instead of a torp for a while. We may need some kind of assistance in the spiritual world to help us to remove all the influences that materiality may still have in our perispirit and in our mind, the best of their ability and our ability as well, right? Some of us is still very conditioned to material things. Some of us will still be very attached to material things, but they will do their best to free us as much as possible for any materiality. And that takes some time. Don't ask me what that means. I don't know what time, how time is in the spiritual world. I don't think we know how time it is in the spiritual world, but it's not going to be immediately. Immediately, if you are lucky, we're going to be at the hands of good spirits, even loved ones that may be there, but we're not going to be able to recognize their presence. Okay. Once we start to kind of wake up or leave that period of adaptation back in the spiritual world, then we wake up. If we have the merit, we'll be able to recognize loved ones that perhaps have been there quite some time trying to help us from the beginning, but we were not able to perceive. So it takes some time. It not happens immediately. Unless you're talking about a spirit like Chico Xavier that was more there than here from the beginning anyway. So, but for us, it's not going to be immediately. It's going to take some time. Next, or questions, comment?
287. How is the soul welcomed when returning to the spirit world? The righteous are welcomed back as dearly loved family members who have been long expected, while the wicked are despised.
How different would it be from here? What else could we expect, right? I mean, it's such a obvious thing. You do good here, you make friends over here, you get over there, friends to be ready to receive you. You make enemies over here, you make enemies over there, they'll be there waiting for you as well. If you owe tremendous amount to them, they'll be there ready to get paid whatever you owe them, unfortunately. So this is a very obvious answer. Next.
288. How do impure spirits feel when they see another bad spirit joining them? They are delighted to see others like them who are also deprived of supreme happiness, similar to thieves welcomed by their peers.
Again, misery loves company.
They're calling already.
We don't want it to be alone. Sorry, let the phone stop. Okay. By nature, we are social beings. We are meant to seek companionship. We are meant to seek companionship that we have harmonized with, that have things in common. It is true here with the physical instrument. It is true there without the physical instrument. We want to be with those who are like us. Again, the example that I think fascinating that I use a lot is a bunch of kids go to a new school, don't study a new school, nobody knows each other, everybody's new, first day of class, everybody's kind of, who are they? You give about a week and you see the formations of little groups here, there, here, there, here, there. It's amazing how we have that ability to find those who are like us, that have affinity with us. We have experience going through school and we see that happen so often. The ones who like to go to the library after the classroom and catch up with the homework, they will group together. The ones who want to go and play soccer, forget about the books, they will find one another. It takes about a week for the little groups to form. So, the ones who want to gossip, they will get among them. The ones who like to gossip, or the ones who like to be teachers' pets, they will group together. we have this tendency to, I don't know, smell those who are like us. What happened here happened in the spiritual world. So if I'm in pure spirit, I don't want to hang up with those guys who are, going to the library and read books, and that's too boring. You sit there in our spiritist meeting when the spirit comes and say, this place is boring, it's too bright, it's everything that is we consider good, they'll complain exactly about those things. It's too bright, it's too much light, it's too quiet, you know, because it's not their word, it's not what they have affinity with. The same thing in pure spirits, when they see all the spirit coming from the physical world back there, oh, they'll be delighted. Oh, another body here, another companion, someone to share misery with me, to do things together, to go and try to mess up the lives of other people together. Of course, they'll be delighted. We like companionship. And we like the companionship of those who are like us. It's the same here, it's the same there. All right. Next.
289.
Hey, Almo.
Right. Yeah.
I'm just thinking here. So, because we study in books that some spirits they they don't believe there is nothing after death, after the physical death, or they're religious for whatever reason, and they go to a sleep, and there is chambers like with numerous spirits that just stay there sleeping for how long it takes. So on those cases, and there's also spirits that stay attached to the body, sleeping or whatever. So on those cases where our divine providence that place them on this place that they stay, or they are, because usually when we study is our mind that will attract us, or where we will find ourselves where our mind takes us. But when you don't believe there's nothing else, how you're gonna place yourself in somewhere that you don't believe that exists?
Case by case, individually, issues of merit plays a big role over here. The fact that I'm completely atheistic and agnostic and completely materialistic, all that exists is matter, doesn't really makes me a bad person. I can maybe completely materialistic and not believe anything of the spirit, but exercise charity, aftermath, compassion to my brothers and sisters, and perhaps those individuals are even more evolved than what we are. We try to somewhat do nice things because you know that if you do nice things, you may end up in Oslar, and if you don't do nice things, you may end up hanging out in the lower zones. So those who are compassionate, are good, practice charity, and does not believe it at all in anything of the spirit, they have the merit. And perhaps there's one who will be taken to place, they'll be able to sleep, they will have to be able to receive information slowly about our spiritual realities. They have that merit. Others don't have merit, don't deserve anything, perhaps going to be hanging out, lost in the spiritual world, the thing that they are in the physical world. Perhaps those are the ones who, like in the Sixth Sense, trying to talk to their relatives, and nobody listens to them anymore, and they are going crazy. What's going on here? There's nobody can hear me, nobody can see me. It's crazy. Since they don't believe in anything else, something's very wrong. So it's just a question of merit that will dictate how this things is going to play in the spiritual world. I think those who are completely materialistic, completely agnostic, completely atheist, who have the merit, likely they will go to that period of sleep, go place in those chambers, and slowly wake up from that sleeping state and understand the reality. Perhaps some will actually reincarnate without even spend much time in the spiritual world, since they are so gross, materialize everything's matter, they're not going to be able to learn anything there. Perhaps some will spend so much time in the spiritual world, not even realizing that they are in the spiritual world. So I think it varies tremendously. It has to be case by case. And as we see in our spiritual meeting every week, you have to break the news to one or another spirits. And to some of them, we don't even find a window of opportunity to break the news to them. To some of them, we feel like if I do say here, it's going to be worse than it's going to do more harm than good. So we choose not to say anything. But of course, we don't know if you're right or wrong. We're being inspired by the benefactors. But we see spirit all the time who I'm confused. I don't know what's going on. Things are weird. Every week you see at least one spirit like that. Those, and I would say again, those who end up in a place like that have that opportunity, have the merit to be there, and others perhaps not even are able to receive the benefit of being there. So I think it's really case by case.
Thank you.
And many will be hanging out here in the physical world, think that I'm still going to work and taking the subway and completely going crazy trying to figure out what's going on.
Thanks.
7:29. I think I'm going to stop here. I'm going to stop here. We'll continue that next week. Ron will take over. Carrie, to make our final player, please.
Sure. Thank you, Elmo. Infinite Creator and Supreme Intelligence, we are grateful this evening to be together for our study of the Spirit's book. We are grateful for the lessons that we have received and the blessings we have also received on all levels, mental, spiritual, physical, and emotional. We are grateful to join together in unity, and as well as those who are our neighboring centers or across the country. We are grateful for your presence and participation as well. We give thanks to the spiritual benefactors, the good spirits, the mentors, the helpers, the healers, the directors, and the teachers for their good work, for their charity of giving us help and assistance to learn our lessons. We are grateful for the abundance of the gifts and the charity that has been given. May we continue throughout the week with our prayers, with our studies, and with our mindfulness, trying to continue to elevate our thoughts, keep our hearts open, and be generous of spirit. May we ask humbly for the love, light, and peace of Christ to be with us, to guide us, and to keep our consciousness in a high state of elevation. We are truly grateful for this. May we also give our blessings to family, friends, and loved ones and coworkers as we go forth to return to them. May we continue in safety and protection as we go forth and remind ourselves to be beacons of light and gratitude. Go forth now in peace as we close this portion of the meeting. So be it. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elmo.
Thank you all. 7:32. If anybody's leaving, have a good night. Enjoy it. We'll be back in 5 minutes. 7:37. Okay. Bye.